welcome back to Everything from Nothing. We haven't been here since the war. It's been a while, like it's been a long time. Which war is up to you and relevant to you? It could be an internal war or an external war. But we're back again since the war, and that's all that matters. We're safe and we're sound, and we're joined this year for our first episode this year by Father Lorcan Kenny. Am I saying everything correct so far? This Father Lorcan Kenny. I'm very bad for pronouncing people's names. Or
yeah, Lorcan is good. Yeah, Lorcan's good.
And so Father Lorcan Kenny. So that means you're a priest, yeah.
Does.
So
I will not deny anything at the table. Yeah.
And
it's funny to hear you say Father Lorcan Kenny because
really?
that's not.
Resonate.
I don't hear that in Ross Grade. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what do you?
Lorcan.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
so
interesting.
It's funny to hear even like I put a fada on the book as a little nod.
Yeah.
And it was kind of interesting the people's response towards. I'm fascinated with words and how words work and how and language and how it changes and.
Well,
so it's
the first thing when you gave us those books, the first thing that actually sprung to my mind is interest. Like, why doesn't it say Father Lorcan Kenny on it?
Yeah, they asked me what would you put on the book, and I said my name. And that was the genuine response. I just said, that's my name. I really like my name. Yeah. And I like my name.
And is there a reason you didn't want to put the Father in it? Is there
no?
You're just happy with your name.
Happy with my name.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like that you're interested in words, though, and what they can do and the
power of words.
You just make sure to talk into the mic.
Can you hear me?
Just talk into it, and you'll be able to.
Yeah.
And how language is changing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? And the meaning of things that you were just saying about, like earlier on about, I was just coming in from a funeral or whatever, and we were talking about people, you know, and they say somebody dies, that's tough, and you said that's
sad.
That's interesting. I never thought of it that way before.
It was really, I started thinking about it a lot. I lost my mum in November 21, and I was really taken with people's response. And people were lovely. People were very kind. But the narrative really was it's tough or it's difficult or Christmas is going to be terrible. And my own response, it's sad.
Just sad, yeah.
I think we have to, personally, I think we can't be running away from saying a thing feels sad, because that's kind of honouring the love that you have for somebody or that where you are, or so that's why I think words are really powerful, you know, and names are powerful. And
what do you think about the difference between, like, you see the way how every culture like treats death so different? Like the Mexicans, like. They've good crack.
The dead,
they have good crack, like, and obviously there's still, I think there's a misconception. People think they don't cry at the second someone, right? Hey, it's not like that at all. Like, they're obviously sad because they love that person, but their belief in their cultures or their belief in, you know, where those people go is so like concrete, and their faith is so solid that they literally have fun. You know, after, you know, they grieve a bit and then they start to party. Like, what do you think? You know, why do you think there's such a difference between how different cultures, like especially to use Ireland and Mexico, completely different? Why do you think that they're different?
I think because it's where it's how you see life and time.
Okay.
You know, because even like my gut reaction when you were saying where they go and stuff, I don't think people go anywhere. They're still here, you know, they're still part of, and whether you believe in whatever you choose to believe in, people can build it in here. One of my friends is atheist, so, you know, she's built it in here, that person is still part. It's nearly part of her sinews. It's part of who she is as a person now. You know, my dad would believe, sure, they're all around us anyway, you know, and so it's an interesting kind of, in Uganda, when an older person dies, the response is, in Rayroncoli, they're resting now.
They're resting?
They're resting now.
That's
I think
interesting.
that's beautiful. You know? I think there's an awful lot that has been really great about Irish grief.
Yeah.
And about just the whole, like, even I'm sorry for your trouble.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And, you know, I think part of it, I remember chatting to Mam, and she had been telling about her dad and stuff and Irish language, you know, and how we use things like we didn't, there wasn't World War II, there was the emergency.
Oh yeah.
It's an emergency. Like an emergency is when the water is coming down. You know, it's kind of a war. Or the troubles.
Yeah. I love all that.
The troubles, like, you know, and that's why I put I asked Brian O'Ferry, he's a great shout out to Brian up in Donegal. He did the Irish translations. And it feels different to say it in Irish.
Yeah.
You feel it different in a different place when you're using Irish words. And I'm not great at Irish myself now, but I love hearing it.
That's really interesting. Like,
so, yeah, because it's. I think once you can tune into your own experience of feeling. Well, I've just said now to a group, you know, I know Jack a long time, but I've only met you now that I can feel sad over, man. Do you know?
Yeah.
That's okay to say it, and the sky won't fall down through the skylight. But it's actually more truthful then that, you know, we're allowing people to say, I'm sad, or I'm happy, or...
I think by acknowledging that correct word on it, that it takes some sort of pressure off you.
Totally, totally. And the number of people who quite liked lockdown, and they were having lockdown guilt going, I can't actually say that I really enjoyed the hibernation time.
I loved it so much.
Yeah.
It was one of my favourite times.
Yeah.
It was one of the happiest times since I was a kid. Like summer, it was the first time I didn't feel this frantic need to work all the time.
Yeah, totally.
Pay bills, to pay. It's like you're a treadmill since you left school. There's always another bill coming in the door to be paid. And this is, what? No bills.
Totally.
No. And they're giving me 300 quid a month or a week or whatever it was to do nothing. Oh man, I can't wait to just do nothing again.
Some of the lads sent me a picture of Easter eggs on the 28th of December.
Of what? Easter eggs?
Easter eggs were being put out into a shop. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking that is part of our issue at the moment. We all have to start thinking about the rhythm of things. Do you know, like the decorations are up for the toy show and they're down on the 1st of January.
Yeah.
Whereas before there was a rhythm to the 12 days of Christmas, so that you had your period of kind of unwind and then connect and then kind of reintegrate, and there was kind of a flow and stuff. Does that make sense? It was a natural flow. Whereas now we're having Hallorismas. You go into a shop and there's the Halloween and there's the Christmas and they're all into one kind of thing. And that's not good messaging for anybody to kind of take in and go, gosh, you can only be where you are anyway.
Yeah.
But now it's been forced to think about the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
Yeah.
Whereas for some people in lockdown chose to kind of go, God, I only have to be right here.
Yeah.
Do you know? Now, the flip side to it is some people have never come back from the 1K in their head.
Yeah.
And reconnecting with people, I think, is they're finding that really challenging, and I don't. It's not. I'm not trying to judge, because it is challenging to connect with people.
Yeah.
Do you know? But it's fear. Kind of. Did it bring people a sense of love and peace, or did it give people, like what you were talking about from your home estate and stuff? Do you know, what did it bring? How did the experience of COVID kind of... and even on note, like I said to the lads in the coffee shop, we all had those WhatsApps that the army are on the streets and you have to stack up and can goods. And I was looking at this going, oh, for God's sake. I was in Lidl and I swear to God, I started to take down tin spaghetti. No, I don't eat tin spaghetti. But it's still in my press.
Who still has pasta?
I was like,
who has pasta?
I was like going shopping. I'm not into shopping, so I decided, I look very foolish when this happens. So I bought a packet of pasta. That's all I bought, and I still have it there.
And he's still ready.
You should bring that pasta in the car beside you and go for drives and go, I'm going to reintegrate the pasta.
Yeah, that was my thing. I said,
being in pasta.
I'd be able to eat pasta for a couple of days. Yeah. We're stuck, you know.
No, even what I was saying earlier about like that, like, a lot of people in our home estate, a lot of people that grew up in chaos were well able for the chaos. And not just our home estate, like, it doesn't matter where you grew up. It's totally. People who lived in chaos when they're younger tend to really enjoy the pandemic, because it was kind of like, well, now everyone's into chaos, and I'm already used to the chaos. So, but definitely for me, like, I kind of, I suppose, so loved the chaos that, like, when I was hearing about I remember the first night in lockdown, right? I walked up Turles, really, I only passed one person other than the guards, and it was weird. I was walking over the bridge, and you drove by. There wasn't a single. I walked around that town for 2 hours on my own, and the only cars that drove by other than you was guards, just guards, and they weren't doing anything like, but they were just like checking up the place because in case anyone was robbing and stuff, which is cool, and they were all very friendly. But it was one of the best nights of my life. There was something about it that felt so free, and like it was like I was. Like I could sense the like potential. I don't know what it was. It was like everyone thought the chaos was outside, and they were all inside talking about the chaos. But I went out. There was no chaos, and I could feel that. I could feel it was. I don't know how to explain it. It was one of the most blissful things I've ever experienced in my life. Like, but yeah, the only person.
When you walked around and you saw your town, like this is your hometown.
Yeah, in Turles.
So when you saw the buildings, or when you saw it, and now when you walk around, can you still get what you saw then? Or has it changed?
I can, if I'm aware of it, I can like summon that energy or feeling. I can do that with different things anyway. But in terms of like the immediate perception, no, it's the busyness like is, to me, what's going on now is more chaotic. Like it's weird. It's like, yeah, because it's like that consumerism stuff is more chaotic to me and more dangerous. Like not than the pandemic, but then the idea of hibernation, or you know, or yeah, I don't know. The chaos is I don't even know what you call what it is. Chaos. It's like unnecessary chaos or something. Like, you know, the chaos the pandemic was maybe necessary if there was chaos.
Yeah.
But now it's like, well, now we're creating chaos for ourselves. We're going out telling ourselves we need to buy this thing to look like this. We need to, you know, all this stuff that doesn't come from us, and that's disorientating when I walk around towns everywhere in Ireland.
Because people are starting to say again, "Oh, time is flying."
Yeah.
And my gut is always, it's not.
Yeah,
you're
time
flying.
is still exactly.
For sure.
We're
Flying.
flying.
We talked about that before, the whole thing of like it's all about perspective when it comes to like time flying. Because the thing I was saying to you, I think I said it on the podcast before, where it's like the way I think about time is like, because when I kind of reached like first reached my early 20s, I kind of got that thing of like it felt like the year was just flying. So what I started to do is like I like throughout the year now, when I do things like, even if it's like go and play in a gig or I go do anything at all, I make a mental note of it. And then when the end of the year comes, I have so many mental notes of things I did throughout the year. So even if for a split second I try to convince myself that time flew, I'm like, well, time couldn't have flew because here's 50 things I did. Like,
Yeah.
So then when you start to think about it and you like think about those memories and dwell on them, it's like, whoa, this year like lasted forever. And I think it is all about that perspective. Like, if you give yourself more things to think about, it's like if you're doing the same monotonous stuff over and over again, you've nothing memorable done, so time flies.
Yeah.
But when you create things that are memorable, then you can't possibly feel like time. Yeah, you can't feel like time is moving fast then.
Because we were saying before on that, like, was that the biggest nonsense ever is time flies when you're having fun. There's nonsense. When you are like depressed or going through something and you're doing this and you're only at home watching TV or something like that, that's when time flies. Yeah, like it feels slow in the moment because you don't want to be there. But when you're separating, like time flying, the more time flies, the more you disconnect from the moment. Like, and like he's saying, the mental notes is so important, and I need to get better at that. But yeah, like if from my experience, the years where like, just say I went working at every festival, I had so much fun, like there was so much soul, so much, every moment was like I was here, like present, like I can, even now they were slow years, but they were like long, slow years, and I was having fun. But the years where I wasn't having fun, just being at home, the same routine every day, time flies then. So the time flies and we're having fun is so confusing to me. I don't know, it's weird.
I hadn't thought about that, but I will think about it because I think that's a really interesting take on it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's part of the reason that I wrote the books from the back. There's 3 of them.
Yeah.
So I started at the end.
Yeah.
I wrote my way back to the beginning. So that it's like a circle.
Which one is the start?
So
then?
that's the joy. So that's the one that I wrote last.
But this is the first, then what you wrote.
So actually, hope is what I wrote first, and that was released before it. And sorrow has to come out. So it's voices of sorrow and hope and joy. So that for people who've gone through it, they'll realise that the people who are honest about sorrow have experienced joy, and that's going to help them move back to hope, like that mum.
Yeah. I like
Yeah.
that. Do you know that expression? Like grief is the price we pay for love. I like
Exactly, 100%. I so agree with it.
That's cool.
And it's
yeah.
it's the amount of sadness and tears that are falling equals the amount of love. It's the only maths I know.
That. Yeah.
I'm not numbers. Even when you were giving me, I think I wrote down the wrong postcode to write down because numbers jumble for me.
Yeah.
So it was. I so agree with that, and it makes. I don't know. Have you seen a film called Arrival?
No.
It's Amy Adams.
I haven't seen it yet, but
She's a great actress, and the chap who was in the snow plow accident, he plays Hawkeye in the Avengers.
Oh yes, yeah.
yeah, I can't remember his
chap.
name.
He's in it too. Is he?
It's really
Jeremy Renner.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a great film, and it's the first time when I went to see in the cinema. I went on my own. It's the first time I've ever seen how I experience time.
Yeah.
I have
That's
never.
interesting.
It was articulated on the screen. I totally got it. The music of it, you love the even the history and how he wrote that piece of music.
Yeah.
It was like a moment that's some moments you get in life are eternal.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and they stay with you, and you go, "Oh, I was actually meant to sit there and experience this."
Yeah.
So it's because it felt a resonance. I felt I totally get what that story is now. I won't say no plot spoilers.
Yeah,
or
don't.
anything,
I'll
but
watch that.
Watch that film.
Yeah, I will.
I think you'd really. I think maybe
What's it called again?
Arrival.
Arrival. Yeah. Cool.
So it's and it's not about aliens at all.
Yeah.
But it brings in language, and it brings in time, and it brings in, I suppose, the nature of love.
That's cool. Oddly, Interstellar did that for me. I got to learn a lot about love through Interstellar. Like,
Have
I
you seen
always
it,
heard the thing. I got to understand. It was weird, right? So I'm not like kind of like scientific, as in I don't. My brain doesn't operate like that. I can't understand it. But the reason I was finally able to understand what like anything beyond the fourth dimension was the way that movie showed it, and how like love is the only thing that like time can't affect, like the only thing and that blew my mind when I was watching it. Like, you know, without that movie, I don't think I would have been able to comprehend. Like that movie taught me what God was in the way I see God now, like, or taught me what the universe was in the way I see universe, and what every day was. And yeah, I don't know. It's weird how like stories can do that, like, and it's cool. And yeah, storytelling I think is the greatest way of learning as well.
My dad, when I started out in Roscranes, told me that I never, ever, ever say to somebody, "Time heals everything." He said, "Don't ever say that to anyone."
Yeah.
And I was listening. My dad is a kind of a Morgan Freeman. Do you know that voice? You kind of go, "Oh, I'm listening to him. I'm going to soak all the wisdom in now." And he said, "No," he said, "time doesn't mean you heal everything. Time means you're coping with a thing longer. And some things you have great coping days, and some days you have bad coping days, and some days you're just waiting for that wave just to stop, just to kind of go through the body and just kind of get my feet under me again." And then he kind of goes, "No, time doesn't heal everything." And in typical dad form, he goes, "No, but love heals everything because love is stronger than time."
Oh, that's right.
And I was there going,
That's crazy. Yeah.
and in the next
true,
breath, he
like-
goes, "Will we get some tea and bread and butter and jam?" And it was like we went from,
There
and
to
it was
like-
all into the one sphere.
That saying used to drive me mad when my granddad died. People used to say to me, "Oh, time here." And I remember I used to talk to you about when my granddad died. But like my way of dealing, my grandfather would have been like a second father to me. Like,
Yeah.
he would have been super. I would have lived with him and everything. Oh yeah, sorry, I would have lived with him and everything. you know.
Yeah.
But like when he died, it took me until my early 20s to actually start to really get over that, you know.
Yeah,
But my way of getting over that was, well, not that you get over it, you don't get
know what
over
you
it,
mean.
but it was
to live with it,
to live with it. It was more to kind of, I decided that, right, I can stay like this and stay, anytime I think of my granddad, I can stay getting upset and stay letting the tears come in, or I can take everything that he gave me and put it in here,
Yeah.
go forward with it, you know. And now I'm able to talk about without crying. I'm able to share the wisdom that he gave me with my little brother and like with other people. And I can see just how, even though he wasn't there 16, 17, 18, I can see how his wisdom all the way up to 15 stayed with me and made me into the man I am, you know.
Yeah.
But you're choosing
cool,
to take it in too.
Yeah,
Like,
you know.
that's part of it. It's the choice.
The choice to actually
You know,
let it in.
yeah.
Yeah.
It
Big
is-
time.
It is interesting how it can like change like with time. Like it doesn't heal, but like with perspective and stuff. Because like when my friend like Gary Kirby passed away, like that hit me so hard, and like it was like I couldn't think about him without feeling upset. But I managed to turn that into now, like, where it's like if I'm watching a movie or listening to a song or doing anything that I know I'd be showing him if he was still around, I get happiness from it, because it's like it kind of proves the love and the friendship that I had for him, that I'm able to go, this is what we would be doing now. So it's like the friendship and love is still there, like that. Like, you know, it can him not being around can't get in the way of that. Like, as in, it's still I still have, I know exactly what we'd be doing all the time, and that brings me like loads of joy, rather than when at the start it would bring you kind of like you know you just cry about it, like
100%. Yeah.
I like to think that if you let that feeling in, that like everything with my granddad, or even everything with your friend, that like you're a continuation of them then, because everything that they would have taught you or made you feel is in here now, so you're able to move forward with that energy alongside your own, you know, which is that's my that would be my way of.
Yeah.
Doesn't it show the depth of relationships, though, that we can make with people, that after a huge loss and after like there's still I agree, you don't get over things, but you move through them. 100%. And we kind of like, I'm still learning from my mum. I'm still learning from different people I've lost that are still huge. I'm still in relationship with them.
Yeah,
you know. So I'm slow to use the phrase "I lost."
Yeah,
because I don't feel I lost those. Other things brought loss, but not death.
Yeah,
you know. So
it's kind of refreshing for me anyway to hear all you, especially even what you were saying there, like because I've like been like that my whole life in terms of death and stuff, and I didn't know it. I used to think I was like some weird like psychopath, because you'd see me crying at every funeral, and it would be like funerals are really hard for me, but it's not because the person's gone. Even for people who are really close to me, naturally I never felt like they're gone. I have this bad habit where like I could go away for, my parents used to always say it, like I'd go away for weeks and not text them, and it's not because like it's weird. I just feel like this eternal constant connection with everyone I've ever loved, like and everyone I've ever met, like even here, like so like time is weird for me when it comes to next time I meet someone and they might be I haven't seen you in ages, and I'm still in that same mode of the last time we left off. And it kind of happened with death, where it was like, yeah, people when they would die, it was like it literally still doesn't feel like they're gone anywhere for me, and I can't fully explain that. It's weird. It's like it is like the thing inside or whatever, but definitely I used to feel really weird for ages that like I wasn't crying. I was crying, but it wasn't because other people were crying. I would cry because I was so, like, it would be heartbreaking to see like Stevie crying. Other people I cared about who were here around me now crying is heartbreaking to me. Like, and that's really hard to me, seeing people who are around me now sad. But yeah, no, it's refreshing to hear that. It makes me feel more like normal the way you're talking about it.
It's interesting though how, like, say you would have cried because you would have seen other people cry, but you might not have cried. Like, if just on your own, would you? Or would you?
I cry on my own, definitely. It was just like, like when like usually if you hear the news of someone dying, like the news is always really weird. But even then, it's like, to be honest, maybe it's because a lot of the deaths are suicide. It's kind of more of like, for fuck's sake, rather than like into crying straight away. It's kind of like my instant thing goes, okay, what do we do about that? Like, you know, or whatever the fuck, like, or how it just gets. Sometimes it's anger comes up, but yeah, the initial thing is definitely never crying. I don't tend to cry until I go to the funeral and see everyone else crying and shit. I don't know.
I can feel that as well. That where like, suicide just breaks when I hear somebody, even if I hadn't known them really well, when I hear of somebody that's died by suicide, it's just like I can't actually describe it. It's like my stomach falls out of my like it just, because it makes me. Because there was one point, I can't say that I was extremely suicidal or whatever, but there was one point in my life where I felt like there was absolutely no point to living, really. Like, what was the point? There was so much suffering, there was so much hate in the world. There was so, like, and what can I do about it, you know? And I can, every time I hear of a young person dying by suicide, it brings me back to, they felt that there was nothing, they felt like there was just darkness. There was nothing to live for. They couldn't get through that. And like, the only thing that I can think of when when I hear of somebody that dying by suicide or whatever, when it brings me back to that is that like, because I felt that, the only way I was able to deal with that was to what would you say, like focus on my immediate surroundings. So like, you know, like I have Adele and I'm absolutely madly in love with Adele. That's an amazing thing, you know. You can't, but it is like it is. So you said something to me when I was 18, and it stuck with me. I can remember this girl broke my heart when I was like a teenager. Well, what I thought was, you know. But she absolutely broke my heart, and I had my biological father had come back around. A girl had broke me, and my granddad was after dying. And I felt like absolutely terrible. And Lorcan said to me, and I never forget, he said to me, yeah, you can see this as a loss of love, and you might never love anyone again, or you can look at it and see it as like you're capable of loving someone. And like that is like, but it is, and it just stuck with me, like, you know. And because and you see it a lot with young fellas these days, and probably young girls. It's very hard for us to actually take on when somebody's showing love towards us, to actually accept it in. Just as it is very, very hard sometimes for us to actually get out what we're trying to say to somebody.
Can I ask, just sorry on that, just because why do you think like we do find it hard to accept love sometimes?
I think that's a big
I know
question.
It's a big question. There's no answer here, but
I think
I've never asked it before.
I think upbringing can be a big part of it. I think, know, like everyone's not blessed with having a loving family, and if you're reared in a loving way, I think it makes it easier for you to give and accept love. But if you're raised in a like you were saying, in chaos or in a place where love isn't given to you, you kind of have to learn nearly, you know.
I think it's fear or love. That's the bottom line. I think there's two primary things that it's fear or love. It's and to me, hate is an expression of fear. So I think
there's two, fear or love.
I think there's the thing about first of all, I think it's really important to say to somebody, do you know, you are capable of loving. You are somebody who has a heart. You somebody who has whatever you choose to call spirit, soul, the truthful part of who you are. And that's really, I think it's a really important thing to say to people. Now, also, it's a really important thing to say to myself. Aren't we all great at giving out the medicine to swallow our own? Do you know? And I think that's huge, important. And once not only capable of giving love, but capable of receiving love, I think that's when the fear goes, there's no power here anymore. Do you know? It's actually good. And it's calm, and it's constant. I think constancy is my latest big thing now. People are constantly, things of constancy. I think there's huge security in realizing that if I don't have constancy in my home unit or in my school life or in my professional life, or maybe I'll just have a quiet time and look and go, well, where is that constancy? And if I can tune into that, well, then all the other chaos will come and go anyway. You know, and I think that's a key. Contentment, constancy is a huge kind of security blanket against fear.
I think thinking about like what is constant, what is present, like Bowie kind of covered there, like that's definitely a thing as well. Because even like when people have panic attacks, like the main method they use to tell people is like, you know, I can't remember the exact way it is, but it's like, what are 5 things you can see, what are like 4 things you can touch, and you go through that. So like having that thing around you where like you, like when they're like with a panic attack, it's just, you know, it is just intense chaos in your head, but like having that kind of grounding moment to bring you back into the present, and you kind of just sit with where you are and you're like, okay, everything's fine, things aren't crumbling. So it's like, I do think it's definitely important to have that. Like,
I can't remember who said it, but there was somebody, and I thought it was really clever, and it's useful for people that the amygdala can't, that dinosaur part of the brain that gets triggered with anxiety, fear, the whole thing, it can't tell the difference between the house is on fire and the toast is burning. But once you realise, oh my God, the house isn't actually on fire, and I am feeling uncomfortable, or I am feeling a little, but you know, in 10 minutes' time, it'll be okay. And if it's not okay, it'll be in another 10 minutes time.
Yeah.
And that's where the constancy comes back in. Yeah. And that part, and the amical is a really important part. It's the bit, I don't think I'll go down that alleyway because there's just a weird vibe coming for that. It has a purpose.
Yeah.
But like all these things, isn't it trying to find a sense of balance or a sense of, there's all, a certain person talked about fake news an awful lot. That's the one phrase that I think, well, how many fake news have we told about ourselves in our heads?
What?
Fake news.
Oh, fake news.
I won't use his name. Like Voldemort. It's kind of, well, that's just fake news. That's not, I'm actually a pretty okay person who tries their best to go into situations to bring a little bit of love where there is extreme sadness or loss or whatever.
I think love should be seen as a force as well as an emotion, because like I've seen just from trying to show love to even people I don't know, how like it can change people that I've seen it myself actually, even in situations where people might not have been very nice to you, but instead of like responding with like anger and aggression back to them, if you show love and you continue to show love, and it doesn't mean you don't have to you don't stand up for yourself, or you don't be assertive and stand up for it, but if you practice kindness and love towards them and understand that they're coming from a place of not being right in here, that like it can actually change them too in your presence, and that's been something that I found very interesting, as well as like that saying, oh, he loves himself or she loves, I think that can be fierce damage, especially if kids are hearing it from a young age, like, oh, that lad loves himself.
Love,
or,
it's used in a negative.
Yeah, imagine that. Like, it's crazy. We were only talking about that earlier.
When I first started hearing Damien Dempsey's music, I immediately gravitated towards it, right? But then I started hearing him say, like, he has a song called "It's All Good," and the last few lines of it are just repeated: "Love yourself today, okay."
I love that,
and he just but when you see that live, he has everybody in the crowd going nuts, and they're all hugging each other, and big macho men are like kissing each other, and saying, "I love you, man," and I think it's so positive. But I think when I first heard that song, I kind of, not that I was young, I was only like 17 or so, but I kind of nearly threw my eyes up to heaven and kind of like, love yourself, like, love yourself. And I didn't have maybe the maturity or the understanding to actually get what he was saying, because of from the time I was that height, I'd been hearing, sure, that lad loves himself, or she loves him. It's a negative thing, and it's only like when I got into maybe 22 or 23 where I started going, my God, if I really want to be a good friend to somebody, or if I really want to be a good boyfriend to my girlfriend or whoever, I actually have to start, showing a bit of compassion to myself, because if I'm not showing compassion to myself, how in God's name am I going to show compassion to anyone?
I was watching a comedian before, like, and it was kind of cool. He was like, kind of like, it was almost like philosophical, like, because he'd make you just really think about things. One of the things he said was, he was talking about like the importance of loving yourself. And he said, especially when you're getting into relationships, because he said, like, right, imagine you loved, say, 40% of yourself, and you're like, you're not doing great, but you're like, oh, sure, look, I'm all right, and you love about that much. You then meet someone who loves 60% of yourself, so 60% of who you are, and you're like, whoa, this person loves me more than I could ever imagine loving me. But you're forgetting the fact that person still hates 40% of you. So like, if you don't love yourself, you are setting yourself up to fail. So you need to love yourself, because then if you are fully sure of who you are, and you do love yourself, and you know who you are, then when you do meet people and create friendships and create relationships, like, from the get go, like, oh, they like me because I'm being me. Yeah. You don't, like, you can't really lose then. But I just thought it was so interesting. I'd never thought of it like that before, like.
And the other side of that as well is, if you do meet someone that loves you 60%, that's more than you've ever loved yourself. Therefore, you're experiencing love for the first time in a way that you couldn't give yourself. Then that, once it gets into the territory of, a large percentage of time people will break up because time won't work out. Time will change, everyone changes. When that 60% of love is gone, and you go back to 40%, that won't feel like the 40 used to be. It'll feel less. So you need to be able to love yourself 100% to some stage, to always have that security as well.
Do you know the Proclaimer song "Sunshine on Leith"?
No.
Oh. It's a really great song. It's used in one of the I've gone blankets, but one of the soccer teams isn't it Edinburgh is So I was listening to a documentary about people who sing in their own accent.
Yeah,
I was
you
telling
were
you
talking
about
about
it.
this.
It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
really interesting to hear people like Ricky Lee Jones and poor Dolores from the Cranberries, and why did the people of Limerick love her so much? Because they could hear. They could hear
Yeah.
themselves in her. They could people can hear Damien Dempsey. People could hear the Proclaimers, and like the way if you look at any of the live versions of the song, and I was thinking about using it for what I call Palentine's Day instead of Valentine's, Palentine's, which
What's
is
that?
You and the Palatines.
but no, it's a play on pal. You always use pal.
Oh, right.
Do you know? I think I'm using the same shtick in the oratory years and years and years. But instead of Valentine's, which is putting such pressure on, the nonsense over another person completes me.
Yeah.
You're already a complete person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You already are yourself and stuff. And maybe that song is actually about you accepting that from
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Rather than somebody else coming in to change.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I think it's a really, do you know,
Yeah.
because if not, do you know, are we saying that people who are single are less than?
That's
You know,
so true.
And
Gee,
especially,
there's-
we were talking about women, how I would have seen years ago, like 10, 15 years ago, women, friends of mine would have said once they went over 50, they didn't feel as seen.
Yeah.
You know,
Sad,
but
isn't
that's coming down. I think
Yeah.
that's actually coming down, and even lads of different ages. Do you know? When I have gender studies for fifth years. Do you know, when I turn up to class, and Jack will attest to that. But it was like I don't like the language of toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
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 Masculinity can be a really good word.
Yeah.
Why are we putting toxic? That's somebody who is being hateful.
Mm.
I don't use
You
Muslim
teach, yeah,
terrorist.
You teach.
Yeah, I'm Jack's chaplain.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, for life. Yeah,
The thing, No,
but it's not Muslim terrorist.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
murderers.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
know?
That's true, actually.
Do you
Yeah,
know,
it's painting the brush still.
language.
Yeah.
It's using our use of language and going back to the whole thing about people using, like, I mean, that lad loves himself, or that one loves herself. Like, that's from an early stage. Then somebody's going, "Oh God, I better not do that."
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
Do you ever read John O'Donoghue's books?
Yeah.
Like Anam Cara. Or
Yeah.
I love all that. Like
yeah,
that,
gifted.
that there could be like blessings for this and
Oh, yeah.
blessings for that, and
Yeah.
it's just so free and liberating.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's just class. Like,
because it was bringing something extraordinary into ordinary day.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And even like I think there was a blessing for a mother who lost her son.
Yeah.
All that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Just all this kind of stuff.
yeah.
I just think, wow, I didn't hear any priest say that
Mm,
before.
mm,
Yeah.
Well, I know he wasn't a priest later on or whatever, but he
Mm.
was early days, wasn't he?
mm.
Or he
I think he was.
was a priest. Yeah,
I don't know too much about his life. I just like what I read.
I met him a few times.
Did
but,
you? Yeah.
His brother's married to my cousin,
Okay.
but I had no interest. But
Yeah.
the poor man died. Then I became fascinated by it. You know, but, I've all the books now. I read them. I go, why didn't I talk to him?
Yeah.
Yeah, what I had a chance, but like, I love all that. Or even that he said when he became a priest that the nuns asked him, some nuns asked him for his blessing, and he asked them for their blessing, and they were shocked. Like it was
cool,
almost like they
yeah.
were bold or something to do that. Like he thought their blessing was just as valid back, wasn't you know? And I think I think it's an extraordinary thing that you can have that kind of level of words, like you said, words just free people up and allow them to be themselves or whatever.
100 people, and I think we've all experienced it being in somebody's company that you kind of go, "Oh, I'm breathing. The air is clearer because they're truthful, or there's." Do you know the whole thing? Sincerity is sine cere, and it's without wax. That's where it comes from.
Oh, I didn't know
What
that.
is
So
it Latin?
It's Latin.
For
So it
without
was
wax?
when the boys would be carving away on the marble, and if we say there was flaw in it or there was a bit of chip, they'd put wax in to kind of mask it. So it was only by the torchlight that the wax would melt.
Oh, yeah.
Welt.
That's a good word.
Yeah, welt.
Works better than melt.
Welt. And then people would see, oh, it wasn't a whole piece after all.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
without wax is the whole
Whoa.
sine cire. Do you know?
Wow.
So it's funny how things come back to it. Like I heard that in college,
Yeah.
and I don't think about college. Rarely I think about college, but some things kind of stay with you.
Where did you go
Yeah.
to what college?
Minute.
And what did you study?
Did an arts degree, and then it's called a BD, which is a theology degree, and then a HDip in pastoral care. Yeah.
What made you get into theology and wanting to become a priest?
It's kind of, when people ask me that, I kind of always have to stop and think again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know? Because I kind of go, well, it's like a magnet, or it's like a force that's drawn you in towards exploring. What does being a priest actually mean? What does that mean? What does Eucharist mean? What does connecting in a community mean? What does a relationship with Jesus actually mean? Do you know? So it's kind of it's like a elemental thing for me. It's like a truthful draw on how I best express love.
Oddly, when I was younger, I wanted to be a priest. My whole childhood, I wanted to be a priest. And when I go back, and it's probably one thing, like I had loads of things I wanted to be then after that. And I start getting older, the world gets more confused, and you start thinking other things. But if I go back to it, that was one thing. If I did make that decision, I could still say I know I wouldn't have regretted it, because the idea of it, I think in hindsight, I couldn't tell now. I couldn't articulate this as a kid, but or articulate my emotions even. But yeah, there was like if I look back on it, I guess there was like an attraction to the pureness or opportunity for sacredness, in terms of like I think even just the idea of reading a book, even if it, I know they don't just read the one book, but just even the idea that there's something so fascinated. And I think even now it's more attractive in the day now, where I can't stop looking at Instagram, and I don't want to look at Instagram. Now I think, God, if I did choose that path, I probably would have been more, not disciplined, because it's not discipline, but like, or more balanced in myself to and focused on this one thing that I still am focused on. But yeah, so I don't know, it's weird. But yeah, when you did like become a priest, like, was that like, is that a thing that in your family, did that make sense? Like, we've talked to the priest before, and it was like part of family. Like, were the people around you surprised, or did it make sense to them?
I suppose you'd have to ask them. Did it make sense to them? To be fair,
as in,
I think it was. I was thinking about Mum and Dad, and Mum was there. Now, if you change your mind the night before, there's no problem. There's no difficulty. And I was like, oh, that's great. And yeah, thanks. And and Dad went, and if you change your mind the night after, that's too no problem. And like that, Mum goes, yes, but preferably the night before. I think there's something like pragmatic Irish mother to kind of... I don't know if surprise or I don't know, because you'd have to ask them and stuff. All I know is that it's been an incredible privilege to be, because it was chaplaincy that I started. Priesthood chaplaincy is kind of flows and ebbs. In and out of one another, and it's a great honor. Like I do when I say chaplain for life, that's, to me, it's a vow. It's a sacred kind of a thing.
And what is a chaplain? Sorry, I actually don't know what this is.
So a chaplain is a love in action. That's basically a presence in the school that no matter what a young person is going through at the time, or in 10 years' time, or in 20 years' time, that there is a person or a space where they can come to and be seen and be heard. Because I think no matter what, if somebody's going through something that's, whatever people want to call it, chaotic or difficult or broken or sad, I think if they feel seen, somebody sees me, I think it's hugely empowering for the tiniest. Either you're going to stay still or try and make a brave step. So chaplaincy is it's a hard thing to kind of. I don't even like kind of even thinking defining it.
No, I can get what you mean.
It's love in action to me. It's a privilege.
If I was to say like what I think Lorcan did for me in school, like, as what a chaplain is or whatever, like. I think if I was to think of it, like if I was to, like when I was talking to Adele about you for the first time, when I was chatting to her or whatever, like priest is nearly like, it's not the first thing that comes into my head. It's more like a man that just lives with love for everyone he meets, you know. And like the thing that, if you were in my class, say in school, the thing that you would have seen when Lorcan was in the room was everybody, like, do you know the way in school you have all these kind of, like when I was in school I was into punk music, I was super into punk music, so therefore I kind of took on what in my head what I thought a punk should act like, you know? I'd be a messer, I'd be like trying to make people laugh and do stupid things, so just things that I thought a punk should be. But and you'd see it across all the kids, like, you know, you'd see that all have certain beliefs what they should be in their head or whatever. But I used to see when Lorcan would talk to us, everybody, it was nearly like you gave people permission to be themselves, you know, and that inspired me then as I got older to try and be as much Jack Keeshan as I can be, whatever that is. I'm trying to be myself, whatever is going on in my head. And then I started to see that happening with me. I started to see people that I would have went to college with being like nearly kind of
breed.
Sorry,
right.
You know, but like I can breathe, and you know, I started to see that when I'd walk out, like I was mental health and welfare officer in the college, and like it just kind of brought me back to you were chaplain, and then like you had such an impact on me in terms of like how you talked to people and spoke to people and whatever. And then I got to kind of in third year be a mental health and welfare officer, which isn't a chaplain, but it's if somebody's in bother,
form of love.
Yeah, if somebody is in bother, you have to help them, you know. Yeah. And I was able to nearly what would you say, in situations where I didn't know what the right thing to do was. Like I have this thing in my head where I normally go like, if I don't know what to do, I go, well, what would my granda Paddy do, you know? And I think that. But I was able, in situations in college where I didn't know what the right thing to do was, I was able to kind of go, what would have Lorcan done in school, you know? Yeah. And that just to, even though when I was in college I wouldn't have been speaking to you much, I was still able to, like you were saying, even with somebody dying, that they don't, you can still have a relationship and draw on what they gave you, you know, what they gave you, and like that's what I feel like you do for people.
But likewise from you as well, you've been inspiring, and like so many, like it's so humbling to be a chaplain, because you're in front of these incredible souls who are starting out in life. Yeah. And everything is changing. Like there used to be a payphone in the school. Yeah. Do you know there was a card phone then? Yeah, I don't know. Do you even know what card? Do you know card phones? Like, and like I can remember, like then mobiles came, and then and I don't want to diss social media, because for some people it is really
there's benefits.
Important thing, but I wouldn't give my car to a 12-year-old and go, now off you go.
Yeah, you know, it's
just driving without any kind of parameters, or maybe that's me being overprotective.
No, like
chaplain, you know, maybe now.
I think so. Yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking the same thing the other day. It's like like the education system wasn't even ready for this. No. Like how to analyze information and how to like realize that's a lot of shit. But because you don't realize it is, you get involved in it, and then it gives you back more of the same. It's turning people really into kind of frantic states about
even
things that aren't problems. Yeah,
totally. A simple thing I show in gender studies, an ad. So it's and currently as it is now, when you look, if you were scrolling or if you look at a billboard or whatever, so there's different Dove do great ad campaigns and stuff like that. That there's one about from a male model point of view, and his body is only 14.1%. So that lad, when he's walking,
what does that mean? Sorry,
so when he's walking by, say the big billboard. What he sees is only 14.1% truthful. So from a female point of view, it's below 10. So I was thinking how when he's walking down, or when that girl or when that lad walks down, and they see something that isn't actually real, it's no longer them. And then if you're looking at it, and if you're 14 or 15 or 12 or 10 or whatever, you're looking, well, you're starting to compare yourself with something that is only 14.1% truthful or below 10% truthful. You might as well, I always go, you can be jealous of my ankle. Do you know?
Yeah.
That's the part of the body you're actually going to be jealous of. And would you do that?
Yeah.
Do you know? And then I turn it into a junk on. You should see my hair. My brother calls it my hobbit feet. Do you know? So, but it's not real.
Yeah,
So we're already setting ourselves up for a comparison that isn't actually truthful, which is going to make you feel bad about yourself anyway.
But even when you look at advertisements, like say any type of an advertisement, like a shower gel advertisement or whatever, they don't you very rarely hear like this shower gel will get you this clean or it will get you this. They show you videos of beautiful people using
like
the
this.
product, so you associate the beautiful person with the shower gel.
Yeah.
So you think it's not going to get you anymore.
That's true. They never say if you don't want to smell anymore, use it. It's
It's like all the ads nowadays are like, this is for the workers, the hard earners, the people that do this, the people you love.
yeah.
And then at the end they'll just be like, coffee.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about like just trying to make it sound like all these buzzwords. It's like, we're on your side and all these beautiful, pretty things, and then just like brand. And it's like, it doesn't mean anything. Like,
You should go back to Run Seal. It does exactly what it says on the
That's it. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's strange. I do actually think, though. I think there's a new hypnosis there, in the world of like the social media. But I think like the one benefit, I think like like corporate companies are starting to see it's getting much harder to like fool people with advertisements these days. The sort of tricks gone out the window in that kind of regard. Like I remember even like probably not that long ago, like 5-6 years ago, right? If you said to someone, if you had the conversation about if you said to someone that advertisers are just trying to trick you to buy them, they go, "Oh, I never thought about it like that." Now that's common knowledge now. Right now, that's common knowledge. Everyone knows that there is the trick is there. I don't know. Obviously, it's still there and it's working, but I do think that veil is being lifted. Now, there might be other veils replacing that veil. That could be problems, but definitely that veil I'm starting to see is starting to lift.
Actually, I just thought something as well. I was reading online the other day, and it was a really interesting point. It was like, because you were talking about like social media and stuff. And it's like I'm a massive advocate of like, I hate when people say like just give out with social media, because I think social media is a great tool. I just think it gets warped and used wrong. But like one thing that has changed the internet is like, you remember like when we would have been like young teenagers, like we had social media, Facebook was a thing, right? But it's not actually social media that's kind of the problem. It's there's no longer like child spaces on the internet. So when we were younger, we had Club Penguin, we had Flash Games, we had all those websites.
And you didn't even think
this was a website
anywhere
that was
else.
just for kids. You didn't have to worry about ads. You didn't have to worry about anything.
Wow.
It was actually just a space that was designed for kids. Whereas nowadays, the only kids things are like kids apps, which are basically just adult apps with a filter thrown over it. Like, so it's like your kids aren't getting that experience online that's catered to them. They're just getting like, they're literally just getting the adult experience with like
Whatever.
everything that they shouldn't be seeing kind of filtered over like
That's so
by a
true.
bot. Like, and I never thought about it like until I saw people talking about it online, and I was like, that's amazing. Yeah, there is no like dedicated child-friendly spaces online anymore.
When you're right. Like when we would go on Google when we were younger, we would type in like 3 things. You wouldn't even have like the thought like that you could type anything like into Google. Like,
you
we
just
didn't know that.
you type in like kids games free
Fudge
and you
games.
get whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like, sure, it's like
That's so interesting.
Do you think communication is being like communication between just like everyday people is becoming a bit weird because of social media?
There was former student as well, great guy, great pal, and he was explaining to me about, I'm really bad now. I'm on no social media. I never went on it, and part of it was I just don't have energy for it and stuff. It's not something that I know would. But he was explaining about, I am on WhatsApp. And he was explaining to me about the ticks.
Yeah.
And I was going, oh, okay. And he goes, but when they turn blue, that means the person has read them. And I went, oh yeah, that's great. And he goes, but there's a way of going into your settings on the phone, and you can then have it so the person doesn't know have you read it or not. And I was all right, yeah. And he started to get a bit, not cross now, but he's going,
Like,
you
why
don't
don't-
care.
yeah.
You don't care, Lorcan. You know, I went, oh, no, I don't care. Sure, if somebody is, I trust that if somebody isn't
That's so
going to respond, that means
Something else going on.
there's something else going on, or they're driving, or they're you know, they're occupied. And what hit home was, it was again, I think WhatsApp conversations can go into a funny. One of the lads kind of said, blah, 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 how are you, blah, 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 and I didn't respond.
Yeah.
And another few minutes later was, yeah, I was just thinking of kind of coming down and blah, 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 and I didn't respond. And the third conversation was, is everything all right? And then the fourth one was, are you an IDOV or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I was in the shower, and then I decided I'm going to have an up shave, and I'm going to kind of just do the line up. I was not even next to my phone.
That's so
But the narrative that had kind of been attached
Developed,
to it
yeah.
was really...
You just didn't like that guy, yeah?
blocked him. Shout out, he now knows. But it was fascinating that we can all tell ourselves stories in our head.
Yes.
And now, because it's on this device in front of us, we can attach a meaning to something that
Some
actually
sort of
doesn't.
evidence that's not
It
even-
doesn't mean anything. It just means the person has not responded for whatever reason. And I think in relationships, I don't know if you've ever experienced friendships changing or ending or moving.
Yeah.
Do you know there can be a certain amount of, oh, why did that happen, or why did that not happen, or well, it happened.
Yeah, it just happened. Yeah.
It happened, and I've moved into a different circle now, and that's where I am, and where that person is, and it might still feel a bit hurtful, but I wish them well, or we're moving on, because it's all temporary anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At
Oh,
the
it
end,
is,
of, like in 6 years' time, will we be worried over the blue ticks?
Yeah.
To me, blue ticks are what a mountain dog gets.
Yeah.
You know, so that's.
I heard this.
My nephews will kill me for that one.
But I heard this Buddhist guy talking about. I can't remember what his name was now, but he was talking about when you really love something, or you really love somebody, or anything, anything like that. Just love or hate something. If say like I took off this and I was to say I really love this, if I grab it and I really love it, so I want to keep it close to me. That there is going to come a day where
That won't be there.
it's
Yeah.
just going to come back here,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to be like, oh my god, I need to get. But and if you hate somebody, which like we're all only human, I'm sure hate comes into our heart at some stage. I'm lucky it hasn't in a good while for me.
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to push something away from you, if you're like, I don't want to be around that person, I need to get away. That eventually that's going to come back and hit you. It's going to come back. So the best thing to do is just be still and just let it happen.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
that's an act of courage.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I never thought about it that way.
It really is.
Just yeah, but it's it's just
Mum used to say staying angry, and I it was only years later I realised it was staying angry. She said it wasn't. She never said anything about getting angry.
Yeah.
It was staying angry with someone is. Where'll I get it right now? Staying angry with someone is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
yeah,
Yeah. That's so
And
true. That's
when it's the staying with it that and it's not. She never said about you shouldn't get angry. In actual fact, it was the opposite. Like it's the natural response. There are some things that we feel angry over, and it's right to feel angry. The feeling makes sense in the body, but. And sure, didn't he overturn the tables in the temple? He got really angry.
Yeah.
And I remember I did sociology, and there was a she was a great tutor and stuff, and she talked about a study in anger in Ireland in the 1950s and 60s, and the sociologists concluded nobody in Ireland was angry because we weren't able to say the word. So when they were interviewing, it was, oh no, I'd never get angry. No, get a bit thick, all right, but it was never angry. Or then, I'd never get angry. I just get a bit upset over things.
Yeah.
That anger, no more than sad, like those primary things. Maybe if we said, oh God, I'm angry. I'm really angry.
I
Or
wonder
I'm
where
really
that came
sad.
from, because I think we were more angry in the 1800s. And we were more in tune with those kind of things, and then we kind of stopped.
I wonder if part of it is just the fact of like,
sure.
like, you know, that when you look at the loss of like the language Irish people had, so maybe it was the fact that we, you know, well, if we were still speaking Irish, maybe we'd have ways to say all this, but because we lost that language that was close to it, like English is still relatively new to Irish people, so maybe that's why we can't express things properly in English. Like.
I think in Irish, now I could be wrong, you can correct me, isn't it? Don't we say Tá Farg Orm? It's
like
upon me.
I'm wearing my sadness basically, or my fear, or my anger.
me.
Yeah,
That's a really interesting way of even thinking about it. Because like when the way I try to think about emotions, any type of emotion, happiness, sadness, anger, whatever, is that like going back to things Lorcan said to me, I like as a teenager stayed inside my head and ideas developed from them ideas, you know. And I remember I came down and I asked you what the difference between counselling and psychology was, and that's how we started talking. But I remember one day you said to me that you know, Jack, your brain and your anxious thoughts or the depressive thoughts or any sort of thoughts, it's really just like your brain is the sky, and then the thoughts are like clouds and they're passing. So like when you think about what you were saying about thought, it's upon me. Like it's like all these emotions, no matter what they are just passing. Like they might last for a few days, even weeks, but they're not you. They're just you're behind. You're even behind your thoughts. You're like the watcher of these thoughts. You know, experiencing them.
Yeah.
But like they shouldn't be like saying it in Irish is such a better way, because like you are not sad, just no more. You are not happy. You're experiencing sadness for a period of time. You're experiencing happiness for a period of time. But you are not that emotion. You know, like you're you. That's you're Kieran. You know.
Yeah.
Or you're Lorcan. Or you know, like.
I think as well, I was just thinking there, like what you were saying as well before that about the anger thing, like it's like anger, because I all came to conclusion like a couple of years ago that like anger is like it's like the only emotion that's like neither negative or positive. Like it's the only, like if you like there's an experience where you have that's either positive or like it falls in between worlds, because you can be angry out of love and you can't really be like, you'll never hate someone you love, but you can be angry at someone you love. It's a really weird one that falls in between. So it's like one of the most it affects us viscerally, like anger, and when we're angry it's like rotten on the inside, but sometimes it's very good as well and a positive feeling, even though we don't feel like it is. So it's a weird emotion. I think why, especially in the like with the, I think Irish people, like when you were saying that I'm not angry, I'm upset, I don't like that's, I hear that a lot, and I think there's like the residue of the stubborn residue of like the Irish psyche to not admit, like, so if Stevie does something now and I raise my voice, or if he's saying, oh, am I bothering you, I say no, and he's like, I'm bothering you, I say no, and I start raising your voice, you go, you raise your voice, you're getting angry, and I go, I'm not angry, but it's like the second, if I say I'm angry, I'm saying you got the better of me. And I think like the Irishness, I think this is the same all over the world, but more in Ireland, like the people who I know who will be angry and say I'm not angry find it very hard to like kind of, you're sort of surrendering to the other person. Like you're saying that person made me angry. That means to you in a weird like way, I don't think it's necessarily true, but you're like sort of admitting that they won, they got the better to you. So maybe it was like a thing of like Irish people couldn't be angry because then they're saying they lost. I don't know if that's like a thing on a collective level, but definitely on an individual level. Yeah, so, but it is interesting though, like I don't know, the Irish psyche is really weird, because I always wonder like what is it like, because there's so much, because even when you're saying like what Hugh was saying about in the 1800s, like, and especially even what you were saying, like there's a poeticness to everything that was Irish and still is, but you know, before like not the emergency, the wars and the troubles and everything, I think a lot of who we were and our poeticness and our ability to connect with our emotions got very tough, and that was like one of the things we not lost, but one of the parts of us that got injured, like that we can heal, like as well.
Recovery is possible. Yeah,
on a collective level, I think so as well. And all that is, I think, because I always get confused when people say what it means to be Irish is like getting like an IRA tattoo on your arm with the Irish flag. I go, I don't know, like me to be Irish is like what Hugh was saying, like back at that time, you know, the ability to be angry, that's Irish. The ability, I don't know, to be poetic in your emotions and stuff like that.
I was watching Nationwide, and they were talking about the last place in Ireland to get electricity.
Oh yeah.
And it was really interesting to hear the light and how light changed things, and no phone signal, which would be heaven to me. That would be kind of heaven, you know. But it's really, it was just to hear. I love listening to older men and women talk about their experience of how things changed, and people's connections, and then maybe just it was a case of we maybe got on the wrong train for a while.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's but you know, Granny used to talk about the wrong train takes you to the right station. So and I, not only do I believe that, I kind of rely on it. Do you know? So I'm kind of trusting in that. But I was chatting to a really incredible Leaving Cert recently about they brought up the whole phrase "turn the other cheek" and stuff like that, and they weren't really buying it. And I said, "But do you know what it means?" And they were going, "Oh, you should forgive people." And I was there, no, it doesn't actually come from that. That's what it's seen as. You have to turn the other cheek, but it comes from, do you know where it comes? It's Roman times. So you owned the left-hand side of the person's body. So the old Sinistra, I have a friend who did his master's on lefties. You know, and Irish education system and stuff. So Sinistera is the Latin for, so it's something not to be trusted. It's something different. It's not the norm and stuff. But when he was talking about turn the other cheek, it meant you can still hurt me, but I'm a free person.
Yeah.
So you have the capacity to hurt me. You have the capacity, like what you were saying about, I won't say that I'm angry, because that's admitting you have.
Yeah.
And I think that's control, or you have power or whatever over me. But when you're saying that I'm going to turn the other cheek, it's actually meaning, you can still hurt me. You can still say things. You can still do these things. But I'm free.
That's
I'm a free person. And you don't have, do you know the old, isn't it, Pat Inglesby has a great poem. Do you remember Pat's Hat? I remember as a kid and stuff. And it was, the title of the poem is, wait, I get it right now. This is something very, 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 very few people in life are ever going to tell you. And that's the title.
That's cool.
And the poem is, you don't need permission to be free.
Yeah. But that's like what I would say if you ask me what it means to be Irish.
Yeah.
That's what, in essence, that's what I feel like the older men that I would have looked up to as a young lad, trying to figure out what being a man is all about. That's what they would have expressed is freedom. Freedom. And not I don't mean freedom as in like, the English are still in Ireland. I mean like this sense of, and it's as I'm getting older, I'm feeling it more. It's that sense of spiritual freedom to feel like I am me.
Yeah.
I am not whatever anybody else wants to think of me. That's fine, but I feel like Jack Keeshan right here, right now.
Yeah.
That's what like Damien Dempsey has a song called, I keep going back to Damien Dempsey, but like, he has this song called Sing All Our Cares Away. Or not, sorry, not Sing All Our Cares Away, The Colony. And at the end of it, he has a habit of like singing like 4 lines at the end of the song that repeat and repeat and repeat. And he has these 4 lines that say, "You'll never kill a will to be free," you know. And like that to me sums up the essence of what it feels like for me. I'm going to talk about myself, but like for me, what it feels like to be Irish, an Irish man today, is like I feel like I'm free from whatever anybody wants to think of me. That's fine.
Free to be
just
like,
me,
just
whatever
be,
that is. You know, exist right now and just feel everything. You know.
And then when you hear different people from, like, I'm thinking the lads out in Uganda, and we were chatting away one evening, and one of them said, "Do you know the difference between English and Irish, or American and Irish?" And I was there, no. And it was on such a simple, when we ask a question to an English person or American person, they tell us an answer. When we ask you a question, you tell us a story. And they were describing
out in Uganda, is it?
Yeah, so they were
class.
describing the cadence, and they said, "This is you." We ask you a question, well, what about this? And you go, la 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 la, and they started to get, and they had exactly my tone and cadence, and I was going, oh my God, I can now actually see.
That's funny.
You're going around and around and around telling one story on this stream of consciousness, and whereas they ask a question and it's a really it's really interesting to hear how Irishness is experienced and stuff.
What brought you out to Uganda, and what's it like out there?
So what brought me out was I went over to see a great friend of mine, Monsignor Seamus Horgan, who now works for the Vatican. He was in an embassy out in Uganda, and he's now in Washington DC, and he crossed the water from Kamala, and so I went to see him, and then it kind of, as I was over there, Taig Maher, I kind of remembered Mona was somewhere in the country, and I asked Seamus, because after being in the capital, I kind of went, well, this is grand, but I'd like to kind of just explore a bit. So I asked, could I go down and get a bus or something like that? So very kindly, Seamus arranged that I got a lift halfway down. And then I connected in with Mona and Eileen out there, and it was a game changer, So it was an experience of homecoming. I've felt it in different places, but red dust on my face is heaven.
No way. So you have a real connection to that. That's mad.
Beautiful. You go through different. It's a relatively small country, but you go through different kind of the topology and everything is quite different. So there's marshlands, there's little mountainy areas, there's beautiful valleys and stuff. And where I tip over to is quite down in the south. So, you're down towards Rwanda, Burundi. And so it's incredible. I have great friends there. It's really connected. Yeah.
And you were doing a lot of fundraising for them, is that right? Or something? Were you telling me
I'm really lucky. People are really kind. So any sacrament money goes to.
Okay, right.
Well, I kind of split now between Roscrea and because poverty in Ireland is. It's huge issues as well. So it's between both kind of. But the two girls there, they're incredible. Like Elizabeth was the kindest girl, such a great intelligent, and Chris was the boldest girl in the school, and bold children find me. So they're protected now with those books and stuff. So words have power. Know? And people are so kind to help them.
That's cool.
So, but it's made me think about.
Poverty there as well, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, where those, how they, education really is that whole thing of education being a step out of poverty is so true. And then it can help a family, and then it can help, and the more kind of girls are educated and looked after, so that there's because there is huge issues with men, women. Patriarchal, all that kind of stuff. So the more kind of, it's a very learning experience over what I've received back, and no more than chaplaincy, more than anything, I have received far more than ever I've been able to give. You get so much back. So you've
seen a kind of rise in poverty in Ireland as well.
Oh yeah, big time, and there's nearly. I hear sometimes people giving out and going, oh, well, they're not able to manage, or, and it's they're drinking, or they're doing this, or they're... Well, I think...
People or the government?
I just hear it.
All right. But are they saying that about Irish people in general? People in poverty, they're saying that? Okay, right.
And I think, well, isn't it really easy to raise somebody else's children and do their job and spend their money?
It's crazy, yeah.
Everyone's an expert on that, but am I as good for managing myself?
Yeah.
I don't know where we I think there's I think the language of harshness, I just hear it a bit more.
Yeah.
And yet it's the same. I see it in the community or in school. The people who come with their 1 cent, 2 cent, 5 cent copper collections is what I kind of do and stuff.
Yeah.
For for Christmas, there's another charity, Mary's Meals. So look them up. They just feed a child. A very simple, no frills charity. So great kind of an organisation, and they help children in Uganda as well. But 13 children will be fed every day for a year with what young people and it's normally the people who don't have it.
Yeah.
They give it. I
Yeah.
think that's so
It
humbling.
always is, though.
Always.
It always seems to be the people that
Yeah.
have very little.
They feel it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
feel it,
well,
like,
that's what it is. It's the like ability for to empathize usually comes from like you know, being in similar situations and stuff like. So I think that's why traditionally you will hear people who'd say, I don't know, if there's a single mother who has kids and can't obviously go out and get a job because she's a single mother with kids, and they'll say like, well, why doesn't she go get a job, or she shouldn't have got pregnant, or all this stuff. They're never going to be their neighbors. They're never going to be people who live in the same estate, and they're never going to anyone, or they're never going to be their close family that say those things. If like if you have any experience with anything in life, you don't say those things, because you just can't. Like you don't have that framework to say things that just don't make sense when you know the truth and you know what that's like. So in some regard, I also do have understanding for the people who say those things, because they just haven't experienced them too, and it's
And
like
it's pain.
yeah.
And there's very few people in life who can go right up and sit beside somebody who's in pain,
Yeah,
without
that's
having
so
to
true.
explain it, or put a little wall up there
Yeah.
so that so that I don't feel that. So the reason why they're there is because of.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's a self-defense thing. In fairness, maybe the lesson I'm learning from this is not to be harsh with people who are harsh, because
Yeah,
they're
that's-
harsh for a reason.
100%. I think
You
that's
know?
our way out of this. I think it's our only way out of this world that's become so divisive over little things. Is everyone that gets, and I understand it too, like as we were saying, anger is warranted. If someone says something against your beliefs that are pure in your heart, you're allowed to be angry, you're allowed to be sad and stuff like that. But unfortunately, there's no way out of this world that is completely become, because of the internet and because of politics becoming more of a global thing, and people transferring politics from other countries and applying it here, and it's become this just noise, and there's no way out of it until you look at the person who's saying the complete opposite to you and figure out why they're saying it. And I was really bad at that, like I just get angry and stuff, but oh my god, the things you learn about life yourself when you like look at the things, at the people that make you angry, and you find out like not just why they make you angry, and you know, because you can do that, but ask yourself, why does it make them angry? And it doesn't matter, even if they come from like people like one group that gets a group like not like a minority, because they're celebrities in Hollywood, right? They are not allowed to be sad, right? And some of them are rich people aren't allowed to be sad. And like, and this is the weirdest thing, and like, I obviously sound mental, like, because I defend everyone, but like, you know, I'm no way am I rich, and no way is my family ever rich, far from it. But I noticed I used to get angry then when people who had money say things like, and I used to be a big thing. And then I realized, holy shit, like in a weird way, like I'm condemning them for how they were born. They were born into money, like the same way I was born into not having money. They didn't choose it. So like they didn't choose to have the limited understanding they have. I didn't choose to have the limited understanding I have. The only way we're going to start doing it is start like figuring out how do we like widen our limits, no matter how angry it makes us, no matter how sad it makes us. I think that's the only way out of this madness, is like understanding not just the other side, but the people that make us the most angry, even if they're very hateful people. Yeah, they'll always have come from a place of there'll be a reason. And when you get down to the bottom of it, again, it's like Stevie always says, it's like what you say, it's not excuses.
Oh yeah, it's an explanation, not an excuse.
Yeah,
there's a big
exactly.
difference. Like.
So people can do the most mental things in the world. We need to not just you can condemn them, that's a personal thing, whatever. But unfortunately, if for example, like people getting murdered is a problem, right? Unfortunately, yes, throwing them all in jail is maybe that works for them, whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to say that whether I agree or don't agree with that. But what I'm saying is, if we don't start asking, you know, why did the people do those horrible things, get to the bottom of that. Because if you truly, is the thing you want that person in jail, or you want justice? Because if you want justice and you don't want that thing to happen again, you let down your anger for that person to stop the next person getting being a victim or whatever this thing is like. So I think like if you truly care about the problem you think you care about, you have to start getting to the root of it, which comes from the person who caused the problem. So I don't know. I think that's the way out.
You think you're seeing? I when I look at Irish society, I feel like you're seeing that big time with immigrants. You see people who are frustrated, Irish people who are frustrated,
Yeah, that's
angry,
a good. Yeah.
And they don't look at who's causing the immigrants aren't causing the problem, the refugees aren't causing the problem. It's the government that are making us all kind of fight and give out towards each other instead of looking at them and kind of pointing the finger at them.
It's
You're
so
seeing,
true.
I work in a school, and we go around and we collect kids on a bus, say, and one of the mothers was telling us that there was a big protest where they lived, you know, for Irish people protesting against refugees and immigrants coming in, and they were like saying the main kind of thing that they were kind of saying was, we can't look after our own, so we send them home and all this sort of stuff. And like, it's kind of like it's a very much a divide and conquer kind of tactic that's being used. It's like keep everyone fighting down here, so no one looks at up here and causing the problem.
Like you've probably seen, like it's been around the internet for years. There's this like, just, you know, people do like a political cartoon. There's one where like there's basically just three guys sitting at a table. There's a guy in a suit. Like there's two other guys then, and it's like the guy in the suit has like a plate with like a mountain of cookies on it, and one of the guys has like one cookie on his plate, and the guy with all the cookies is pointing at the other fella with nothing and goes, "Watch out, he wants to take your cookie."
Yeah,
and that's essentially what it is. Like.
That's what like
that's crazy.
Lower class and working class is kind of middle class, working class is kind of turned into. It's kind of compete for resources, you know. And as long as you have a society where people are kind of looking like, I'm trying to get ahead in life, so I'm looking at you and I'm kind of going like, right, well, Kieran's being creative as well, and I'm trying to be creative, so therefore Kieran is my, like, you know, I have to try and be better. I have to try and be better than Kieran. Like, if you were writing a song, even, or writing songs like I do, it'd be like, you know, if you were to have that mentality, it would be like, right, Kieran is a songwriter, so I have to be better than Kieran. You know? That's what's going on. I feel like on our where we're living today in society is where we always feel this need to kind of compete with each other and feel like we have to be better and instead of just being ourselves. You know, we're always focused on what other people are doing instead of ourselves, like, or even like what the neighbours will think, or what, you know, like what my friend group will think, or whatever. And if your friends are really going to be like that, they're not your friends either. But anyway, that's my head's going on all cylinders here. Sorry.
No, it is true though. Like, it's definitely definitely one of the biggest things as well. It's and a lot of that has come to the internet. I don't necessarily think it was like a government plan. I personally don't think they have the brains to come up with such a plan to like create divisiveness. I think though there is definitely like do you know what you're saying? Like we're doing it to ourselves. I think is a fear. I do think there is the thing with the cookies, right? But I don't think it's like the man put the cookies on his plate so he could create the divide. Yeah, I agree. He put the cookies on the plate because he's greedy. That's like the bottom line to it, and he needs to fulfill something within himself. So now, but then the problem is like, you know, it's like we need to figure out. One thing I think we need to stop giving the government the credit, because like you said to me before, I was talking about the government, like we're trying to create this narrative for, and Stevie said to me before, he said, "Do you think they can do that when they can't even fill in the potholes?"
Oh yeah, it's like I said,
like, whoa.
People have this weird hypocrisy with the government where it's like, on one hand they'll be like, the government is like part of the New World Order and they control absolutely everything. But they can't. But on this hand, they're so useless they can't fix the road. Yeah. It's like they can't be completely useless and all powerful at the same time. You know?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't think.
I know that's what you were saying, but like I was just thinking. Sorry, go on.
You know, I wouldn't be thinking like the government's.
No, I know that.
New World Order.
Yeah.
You know, that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean? Where like people say on one hand they're capable of everything, on the other hand they're capable of nothing.
Yeah.
But I just think they're selfish and they're trying to serve themselves.
Definitely, 100%.
And that's where I be coming from. You know?
No, I wasn't. What reason I was saying that wasn't because of what you said. It's because of what I know. Like some of the people commenting, and I think one of the narratives to try and change is that. I was like watching it from my perspective and just watching all the arguments online, like, and seeing, you know, it kind of is like important, I think, to start maybe taking responsibility as a society to say maybe we're all doing this to each other rather than this group or that group, whether it's people blaming refugees or people blaming the government or people. Maybe we have to just say we're all in this boat, like the boat's sinking, let's shut up and figure it out, you know, kind of thing. Like
you know that thing where there's the philosopher going, you know, the youth of this generation are so disrespectful, and you know, they don't listen, and they're not able for hardship, and in my day people were more resilient. I'm paraphrasing now. Who was Plato?
Oh,
like
right.
thousands of years ago. Like, I think of my
That's-
well, I think of my granddad and him telling me I wear his watch, like, and I was
Yeah.
thinking of his granddad taking him aside to say, "Oh, Michael, I'd hate to be a young man now. These are terrible times."
Yeah.
My mother said that.
1903. Do you know what I mean?
My mother said that to me. She's
Yeah.
80
Yeah.
next week or whatever, and she told me like when she was young,
Yeah,
wild,
yeah,
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 and like
yeah.
every generation, it's just,
Faces something. But when you think of it, they were tapping on this was translating as a telegram. That must have been mad, do you know?
Yeah.
But and you know the whole like, but it's what we believe about it, because I know my eldest brother and mum went to the Borough Historical Society about 9 years ago maybe, and there was more murders and knife attacks and kidnappings and traffic accidents 150 years ago in Offaly than there was that year.
Wow.
Like there was much more, but
Yeah.
the difference was if something happened in Dangan, it would take about a week and a half to filter down to Kennedy. So the heat of the story was well, it was more measured then maybe, or there was more time. Whereas now everything seems to be on
Instant and
and anxiety,
and it's gone in a
alert,
minute.
and,
Yeah.
you know, we're not safe, and there's more, and there's more, and there's
More,
but
yeah.
there's I wonder, maybe that's, and I'm not big into history, but maybe that's the comfort of history, that you realise that the issues that we're talking about, the others are coming.
Yeah.
You know, they're
Yeah.
coming to invade, or they're whatever, they're taking over. Where the Celts saying it about the Vikings, where they saying it about the Normans, where the Normans saying it about, do you know, was every
Tribalism nearly coming.
or fear,
Fear
back
of
to
what's
fear
different.
again.
you ever
Yeah.
think a lot of this stuff is kind of a distraction and procrastination? Like, so I'm worried about, I don't know what I'm worried about, the recession, we'll say, or whatever's coming in now. Stuff I can do nothing about.
Yeah,
And it's just a way of me procrastinating from actually making my bed.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like, that's
There's probably there's
But-
definitely that.
But
Like,
even why can't we take care of our own?
yeah.
But that's the really valid question. Why can't we?
Yeah.
And why aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know, one doesn't necessarily negate another.
Yeah.
Who's against people helping?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
isn't it?
no one's
So-
stopping it.
Yeah, both
Go
those,
and do it,
both
like-
those things can be true at the same time. Like
Yeah.
we can help those. We can help people coming into the country. We can help people
Yeah.
who are already here.
Yeah.
It's like,
They
If
don't
people
cancel.
choose to, yeah.
There was that Pulp. I like Pulp, the band, you know, and he has a song, "I am not Jesus, though I have the same initials." I'm the man who stays at home and does the dishes. You know,
Wow.
I
Yeah.
love that. Like,
Yeah, I love that too.
because like I often think like, oh my God, this is going to happen. That did you make your bed? No, go up and make your bed. Do you know what I mean? And then everything is okay.
Yeah.
And just like do what you can do. You can't.
Yeah.
Do you know that first make your bed? Admiral
Yeah,
McRaven.
yeah, I do. Yeah, I love.
And yeah, ever since then I
I've-
started to
I
make my bed.
I never
Yeah,
leave
that's
the room when
Jordan
I make
Peterson.
my bed.
The first, he has a book called 12 Rules of Life, and that's one of the first rules: to get up and make your bed in the morning.
Oh yeah.
Because if you can put order in your room, if you can keep your room in order, that sets you up for the day, you know. And I definitely think there's a lot of truth in that, and even down to like what you were saying about procrastination and stuff. Like when I get up in the morning to keep my head trying to what would you say, to keep my head healthy, to keep my mind healthy, and trying to look at things positive, because you can't be positive all the time, but you try your best to be, you know. But I get up in the morning and like, you know, I get up and maybe I could be awake before Adele, and Adele might be there, and I get up and I'd be like, I have Adele, you know, and I have my brother, and I have a mum, and I have a dad, and lots of people don't have that. So like, I think it's super important to put aside 10-15 minutes out of your day to sit with yourself, to do nothing and just sit with yourself.
Oh yeah.
And
Gratitude.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was talking to a woman yesterday. I did a lot of projects with, you know, in architecture. And we're talking about some next project thing, and we're going, oh, what if that goes wrong? Right? And she goes, you know what we should do? And I said, what? And she said, we should look at all the things we did right over the years and all the things that went well. I said, you know what? You're bloody right. We've done a lot of things that went right, and let's not worry about the next thing that's going to go wrong.
Totally.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
so
was thinking, I
true.
was out at a mass there today, and I was just thinking, geez, that went well, and that went well, and that went well. There's lots of things that went well,
100%.
isn't there? You know?
I never asked you before, but what do you do daily to keep yourself, mind yourself?
I was before I answered that. I was laughing. I could hear my family laughing in my head when talk about make the bed, because they do make the bed.
Right, yeah.
It's everything around the bed is on the floor, the walk-on
Yeah.
wardrobe. So I could hear all of my family laughing, going, "You better admit that before this podcast." So every morning, every night, I always write 3 things that I'm really grateful for. Every single morning, every single night. I've been doing it for years.
Could you say what they were today, just out of interest? If not, if it's personal, it's okay.
So for this morning,
Yeah.
I was
okay if not.
we've rescued a dog.
Okay.
So
Oh,
his name is
deadly.
Bud. Yeah, he's great. He'll be with us now first week in February,
Yeah.
and I've learned a lot from him.
Okay.
Do you know? So
That's cool.
he's a collie. He is incredible. He was incredibly traumatized. So he the first 4 years of his life he was in a run. So he'd never no grass for a collie.
Collie, yeah.
So and when myself and dad, Mam died in November, so it was February. He came 1st February, and so no matter how much you I love animals. My dad is gifted with animals. He's really they relax in his company, but it's it's a special kind of gift, I think. But I kind of started to realize that it's a bit like grief. It's a bit like life. It's a bit like, once I decided up here, I'm just going to let Bud be Bud. I'm not going to kind of, reassure him and, you're safe here and it's all okay and stuff. He had to feel that himself.
Yeah.
And once I stopped wanting him to feel safe, he actually felt safe. And that was a real eye-opener for me about as much as, and even in daily life or in daily work, I'm really grateful for that lesson I learned from him about, we'll say, young people experiencing trauma or really dark, hard situations. Do you know, it's not my job to fix, or it's not my job to advise, it's to be with them. You know, so there's a difference between fixing and mending. So the second thing was that I was going to meet the lads for coffee in E53 because I'm a bit of an old coffee addict and stuff.
Coffee.
So,
that was the second thing you're
the
grateful.
second thing, the best feeling of the day. Coffee is God's gift. Did you know that we were a coffee drinking nation?
No, I didn't know that at all, to be honest.
We had the most coffee shops in Europe.
What?
In
I
the
never.
in the 18th, I always get the numbers mixed up, century.
Yeah, so
But
it
it
was
was only-
1700s.
Yeah, 1700s.
Yeah.
Dublin had a huge amount of coffee shops, and it was only from tea colonisation
Whoa.
that tea started to come in. But we were if we were meeting, in Ye
coffee,
Olde Inn in the 70s, we'd be having a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Who are they? I wonder who their connection was, the government's connection. Like, who are they exporting it from? Be
Don't
interesting
know.
to
I must.
find out.
Yeah.
Probably in some nation in South Africa. I don't know. They don't grow. I don't know. Yeah, must be
And
an
like,
African one.
It
North
must
Africa,
be,
I
or I don't.
That's interesting to find out, though.
It's
That's cool.
really, I think there's a whole language because Bar is culturally people meet for coffee. I think we've 9 or 10 great coffee shops. We're so spoilt in Bar. We really like
You grew up in Bar.
Bar. Well, I was born in Drogheda, so we lived in Dundalk, and then we moved to Arles, Ballochmyler, and then we moved to Bar, and Wexford is home, and it's all different kind of mix and stuff. But it's only when you kind of realise what a fantastic town Bar is. Big
Nice,
shout
yeah.
out to Bar.
I was working up there during October
Were
for
you?
a couple
Yeah.
of months. Yeah, it's a good place.
It's a really, isn't it?
Yeah.
The vibe is, and like I'm really
Yeah.
lucky to be in Roscrea, but it's a different vibe.
It is.
It is, yeah.
Totally different.
It's a great
vibe.
place to go if you're creative, any way creative, shape,
Bar,
form.
Bar is.
Bar. Oh yeah,
yeah,
big time.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I did a School of Rock camp.
Oh yeah,
the School of
in
Rock
the
camp.
theatre.
And in the theatre, yeah,
Yeah.
with Brendan Keeley was his name.
Yeah, very good.
And like, it was the first time, because when I was in school, I said I would have been very into punk music.
Yeah.
I would have been. Not that there wouldn't have been other lads that was into music, there was.
Yeah,
but like there wasn't lads that were into hardcore punk rock, like
Yeah.
heavy metal and stuff. And so you kind of felt a bit isolated. But then when I started going to that, now I had friends, I had really good friends, but they weren't into the same stuff I was into. But then when you went to Burr, you met people that were like on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe I was able to talk about the Dead Kennedys with another lad, and I was like, oh my god, another fella knows who the Dead Kennedys are. Wow, what
Yeah,
the hell?
yeah.
And then Megadeth, I was able to talk about Megadeth with another, and then, it was just
Yeah.
like like a cultural
class.
kind of like. And I was only up the road,
Yeah.
like was
different,
brilliant.
yeah, could different places feel? I'm not familiar with Thurles at all. I wouldn't know the town at all. Really,
Quite like Burr.
Is it?
I think
Yeah,
it, like,
yeah.
to me, just from meeting the lads here and like,
Yeah.
He doesn't know the truth of us though.
Strings and things. Well, I don't. Yeah, well, that's the thing.
It's an evil town.
Like my introduction to coming over to Thurles would have been like I would have met Strings and Things. They're a band from here, and would have met them through gigging and stuff. And then we had an acoustic session in the stand once a week, and the lads started coming over to the acoustic sessions, the Strings and Things, and then more musicians from Thurles started coming over to Roscrea, and then because I was like asking them, "Hey, lads, come over for a session or whatever," and then the lads would be telling me about different places to look into playing in Thurles, and then I started coming over to Thurles, and then this. You know, you get exposed to more and more musicians and more kind of heads that are on the same kind of wavelength you're on, and it is. I feel like it's quite like Burr in the creative sense. It's compared to, I think it's probably the best town in Tipperary to be creative. I would think, being honest, it's great, and people over here tend to, and it's not anything bad to say about any other town, but like if you got up and like as a singer-songwriter, if you got up in Roscrea or even in Nina or somewhere, like, you know, and it's nothing against anybody, but like if
they're great towns.
Yeah, they are great towns. I'm not saying I love Roscrea with all my heart, like, you know, but you get up in Roscrea and you start playing your own music. It's very much a thing, kind of like, lad, play a wagon wheel or play something we all know, will you? And you're miserable, you fucker, you know, like that kind of, you know, that kind
That's
of thing.
bizarre.
But and it would be kind of, if you put on an original. No.
What? That's funny.
If you come over here to play music and do your own,
You will be asked for wagon wheel though. I'll be honest. It
depends.
but it is more open.
It depends on where you play. Yeah.
But like, say you're putting on an original gig, like I brought
People
out my
support
first.
it here.
Yeah, but like I brought out my first EP say last year.
Yeah.
And I went to Roscrea, Kilkenny, Dublin. I went all around the place, you know, with the EP. And the Roscrea gig, it was great. Loads of people turned up, you know, it was brilliant. I couldn't get over it. I was like, oh my God, loads of people are coming. All the lads are coming down, and people I don't know are coming in. This is class. But sure, then, like, they were all out in the smoking area, you know, when the support acts were playing. And then, like, by the time I got on to play, then everyone was sloshed. And like, but in Thurles, but that's nothing against that. That's just
no, I know
it's a different way. It's a different
wavelength.
Wave. It's not anything negative.
Yeah, of course.
Like, just from a creative standpoint, it's when I came over to Thurles and that, like, I couldn't get over that. Like, people are standing there in front of you and really listening to what you're saying, and your songs are really trying to listen to what you're doing. And it's not just me. It's like they listen to everybody. You know, it's like you could have 5 bands playing in Thurles. Like, Fela Biog is a great example of it at Hickey's. You know, like, you could be first on, and there'll be people there listening to you, and they'll be listening to everyone up until the very end.
Yeah,
and they'll be listening so intently and so like wanting to get something from it. You know?
Is that a festival?
Fela Biog, it's really cool. It's really good. It's out in Hickey's. That's the name of the pub.
Yeah, that's a good spot. There is a lot. I know, Thurles, it is good for the music. There's too many musicians, though. It's like the kangaroo problem in Australia. Like, you need more of other species. You know, we have enough kangaroos now. Everyone start picking up the paintbrush and stuff. Well, we finish up now. I think that that was a good episode, and that was probably the longest episode we did. So we might have broke a record by a few minutes. I was trying to break. I was like, past a minute, I think we did. So I hold on to it for a few minutes. Thank you so much for coming on, Jack, for joining us again.
Thanks,
being a bit of a co-host there, and thanks, Lorcan, for coming on.
Can I give a shout out to my students? I promised I'd say hello to something, because they were all highly amused that I'd be going on to a podcast.
Onto
Do I even know
YouTube.
what a podcast?
Yeah, you're on the YouTube now.
I just wanted to kind of acknowledge the respect I have for them and how much
cool.
I've learned from them.
That's
and
cool.
Thanks for having me here at the table. It's been really fun.
I know, but the like, I'm not trying to plow moss or anything, but like you're talking about, like, the respect that you know the students and kids give you. But like, I feel like if you were in my class, if any of you got to be in my class and go back in time and see what I saw, it's like they gave you that level of respect because you were. Do you know the way, like, when teachers go into that school, maybe they feel like they have to put on a jacket and be, I'm the teacher. I have to be. I can't be who I really am. I have to be the teacher. Like, you were always Lorcan, so like that, you could just you could like that. You could go, oh, I'm in Lorcan's presence. I don't have to be whoever I think
just
I
be.
Yeah, you can just be yourself, you know. And I think because of that, then they show a different level of respect than they might if and it's not like they're not showing respect because they feel like they have to show respect. I feel like they show it because in many ways at that age, when you see a man able to be just himself, you can kind of be in awe of that, you know. Like you can kind of be like, how do you actually do that? You know, like how do you be yourself all the time? And
and I'd see it the other side. I get it from the other perspective because I walk in and I go, oh my God, aren't you amazing to come in here?
Yeah.
To put on your shoes and socks. And actually come in and sit down here, knowing what you know and seeing what you've seen this morning. And you're still coming. I think it's hugely humbling.
Yeah.
It's huge. Oh my God. Like,
I wish someone said that to me. I would have went back in.
Yeah. But sure, like, I mean, like we've had a really great conversation here now. And, you know, we didn't know each other at all to come in. And, you know, people were asking me, what are you going to talk about?
Yeah.
And my response was, oh, I have no idea. We're just going to chat.
We're literally every week. Every guest says, what are we going to talk about? We go, I don't know.
Yeah.
After we ask them, like, they go, well, what will I talk about? We go, don't know. Geez, we'll find out. Like,
we'll just sit and be real with each other.
Yeah.
And like whoever listens to it or looks at it or whatever they choose to do, like, you know, like they were really, I hope this isn't taken the wrong way now, but I won't be looking at it.
Yeah, God.
Because like we've already had the conversation. Why would I? That would be like me going to meet Adele and Jack in E53. Shout out to E53 coffee shop in Roscrea, and film it and go, hold on there a second, guys, because I'm going to replay that conversation and look at what we were. Sure, I remember our conversation this morning. Why would I look at something again? Do you know what I mean? Let it be what it was. Do you know? And what it was really good. So thanks so much.
And, I really appreciate you doing it and coming here. And thanks for driving over from the lovely town of Roscrea.
Absolutely,
and Burr.
Great town.
Great
towns.
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
Great town. And if anyone, where can people buy your wonderful book?
So veritas.ie, you can get 7 Voices.
How do you spell that? What's the word? Sorry?
VERITAS. Veritas.ie. You can do 7 Voices of Joy, 7 Voices of Hope, and Sorrow will come out for Lent.
Okay.
You know, and and one character appears in it 3 times.
Yeah. And
one character appears in it twice.
Yeah.
And I'm one character in all 3 books, but only my mother could figure out which one it was.
That's class.
So on that cliffhanger note.
That's funny. Thanks a million for everyone watching or listening, whatever you've done. We appreciate it. We've been away for the last few months. We've all struggled through Christmas, but you think that was why we stopped doing the podcast for a few months, but not because we struggled through Christmas. It was because Stevie was on protest. He was sick of the podcast again. So on that note, hopefully leave a like and subscribe if you would like Stevie to like the podcast.
He's paying me well enough now to come back for a while.
Subscribe. And if you'd like to support the show and you'd like to support Stevie's protests, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/Ireland's podcast. Is it? .ie. All right, what? No, wait, what the hell? I'll put the link. Yeah, there'll be a link in the description. Right, thanks a million. Support Stevie's protests, and he's forming a union here. That's okay. We can't stop him. And see you next week. Bye. Bye.
Very sure about what's going on anymore. The rich keep on lying, the poor keep on dying. Working class and living, but we're barely surviving. Now how could this be that we couldn't see the blame placed down onto you and me? One day you're crying, the next day you're thriving. Lace up them gloves, now you gotta stay fighting. This world's like a ring, it's tough and it stings. It will beat you, try to keep you from achieving anything. So lock up your smoke, this life's not a joke. Stop living your your days through some sniper scope. Love comes back again to see you through the things you do. Trust yourself, my friend. You know you're right to fight for this today. Now you lost yourself, now that's okay. Every day is a school day anyway. Learn to let go now and love yourself. Everyone can do this for themselves. Step through life's ropes, wearing gloves of hope. Deep in this fight is where you learn to cope. If they don't understand, just like we say, their hate will swallow them anyway. Love comes back again to see you through the things you do. Trust yourself, my friend. You know you're right to fight for this today. I'm a man, I may not be sure, but I know that the answers are not in war.
I love the taste of strawberry medicine as it runs down my neck. I feel it draw me in, and when it settles on my mind, just know you'll find me there inside.